years we've been talking about hoping to address stronger regulation, releasing a viable company to act in the public interest as well as their shareholders.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Great stuff as always. Let's take a look at some of the day's other stories for you now. And the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry claims 24 people have been killed while waiting to receive aid in Rafah. Now, the IDF confirmed its troops fired shots near a few individual suspects, they say, who were accused of advancing towards Israeli soldiers away from designated aid distribution areas. The IDF says it's aware of reports regarding casualties they're investigating. Elsewhere, a man accused of throwing petrol bombs at a pro-Israel rally in Colorado has been charged with a hate crime and 16 counts of attempted murder. Prosecutors said Mohammed Solomon had spent more than a year planning the attack, in which 12 people were injured. The FBI has described the incident as a targeted act of terrorism. Cancer death rates have fallen by more than a fifth in the last 50 years, but cases are on the rise. A report from Cancer Research UK found that people are now more likely to be diagnosed with cancer, but less likely to die from the disease. Best picture story of the day, this. Tourists and businesses in Sicily have been forced to flee after Mount Etna started to erupt. It's the volcano's largest eruption in about 4 years, but there's no immediate risk to the surrounding population.
Thanks, Leah. I want to talk about Roman Abramovich because that's a name Chelsea fans probably thought they'd heard the last of, but back in the headlines this morning as it happens, because it seems the government want to go after some of the money, if not all the money, he got from the sale of Chelsea all those years ago. When was that, 2 or 3 years ago?
That was in 2022.
Yeah.
And so this was just after Russia invaded Ukraine. Just to give a bit of context with who we're looking at here, this is Roman Abramovich. He's an oil tycoon. And he bought Chelsea in 2003, and under him, the club had a massively successful run, 5 Champions League, 5 FA Cups. So really impressive run there. But in March 2022, as you said, he was sanctioned by the UK government. He was forced to sell the club. That sale eventually went through in May 2022, and it was sold to an American consortium. And the profits of that sale were roughly about £2.5 billion.
Yeah.
And he had promised, look, this money will go into an account that will help humanitarian causes and help those affected by the war in Ukraine. But there's been some disagreement with how that money will be used.
Yeah.
And this is where the UK government now are quite, I suppose, losing their patience.
Just
a
that's
little.
in that account.
It's still in that account. No one has received any benefit from that money. There is a statement, though, from the Chancellor and David Lambert. Let me read that to viewers. So the statement goes, the government is determined to see the proceeds from the sale of Chelsea Football Club reach humanitarian causes in Ukraine following Russia's illegal full-scale invasion. We're deeply frustrated that it's not been possible to reach agreement on this with Mr. Abramovich so far. And while the door for negotiations will remain open, we're fully prepared to pursue this through the courts, if required, to ensure people suffering in Ukraine can benefit from these proceeds as soon as possible. Just to mention that Roman Abramovich was alleged to be linked with Vladimir Putin. He's always denied that charge. So it's just important just to thread that through the story.
Absolutely. I'm sure that one will burn throughout the morning. Changing focus now. Decades of conservation efforts to protect the critically endangered western chimpanzee are being undermined by extreme illegal encroachment on one of Africa's most famous animal sanctuaries. Ghana in Sierra Leone has had to shut its doors to visitors indefinitely as its workers do all they can to protect the 120 chimps that are housed there. Sky's Africa correspondent Israel over here reports.
This lush rainforest isn't just scenery. It's a sacred home to our closest primate, the critically endangered western chimpanzee. Illegal encroachment is eating away at the borders of the safe haven on the edges of Sierra Leone's capital.
That encroachment is fast approaching, and chimps always had this as a buffer.
Their territory is diminishing, making them see us as intruders.
Yeah, so we need to start going this way. Yeah, from this way. Yeah. Let's get going. Yeah. You can see how they're reacting. Imagine on that side, when we don't even know who's coming there. That's where the danger will come.
Takugama Chimpanzee Sanctuary is Sierra Leone's most popular tourist attraction. Now closed to visitors, as illegal construction undermines 3 decades of conservation efforts. But they continue to care for over 120 rescued chimps of all ages.
Every time a baby chimp arrives, people think, oh, well, you're doing a good job, you were able to confiscate a chimp and rescue a chimp and bring it here. But for me, as founder of the sanctuary, I feel defeated because this chimp shouldn't be arriving here. If we have done enough work outside, there shouldn't be any killing, there shouldn't be rescue. That's the time I can say we have achieved something.
Just behind Esther is Takugama's latest rescue, Asana. He's vulnerable and frail, slowly being nursed back to health by his chimp mom, Mama P. An informant sent this footage to Takugama of baby Asana being tormented as an illegal pet. They tracked him down and brought him to the safety of the sanctuary, where he can grow to become strong like his new older siblings.
It's great to see that he's so playful, because by the time they get here, they've been rescued from really traumatic experiences at the hands of people in the country. So to see them in this state where they're healthy and playing around is extraordinary.
Even without visitors, the sanctuary is rich and alive. But the severity of this moment for the chimps and the country cannot go ignored.
Now we're closed indefinitely. But what if this becomes something where we can never open the sanctuary again for people to visit? Then you have all these young Sierra Leoneans who have to live their lives not even ever understanding fully what the national animal is, not having the opportunity to experience it.
In absence of funding from, at the moment from the US government, it's going to be difficult for us to turn around quickly. But we're very resilient. We are like chimpanzees, so we will manage somehow.
The resilience of these sensitive, bright creatures is being tested, as the space carved out for them by their human friends is increasingly coming under threat. Yusuf Babin, Sky News, 310.
Defence Secretary John Healey joins us this morning following a big day yesterday. Good morning to you. As I said there, big day yesterday, big announcement in Parliament after many days of preempting it. You have taken on all the recommendations of the Strategic Defence Review, but what has been missing, John Healey, is confirming that you'll be able to pay for it all with a 3% GDP spent on defence. Can you confirm that is the case?
On the contrary, the Prime Minister said yesterday, we are committed to spending what we need to deliver this review. This review can be delivered in full, will be delivered in full. It sets a vision for the next 10 years on how we've got to transform our armed forces, how we've got to make the extra defence investment that we're putting in become the engine for growth right across the country, and how we've made our armed forces personnel at the heart of our defence plans with better pay, better kit and better housing. And I've recently announced 1.5 billion extra to deal with the scandal of military family homes that for too long have been damp, mouldy and substandard, and 8,000 of them aren't even fit to even be occupied.
So you can confirm that the government will definitely spend 3% of GDP on defence spending?
We're 100% committed that we can reach that.
And conservation are two different things. Is this definitely happening or not?
Look, I'm 100% confident we can deliver this review. We will deliver this review, and that we can deliver the 3%. What's more important, of course, is that what we can do now that counts. And we're putting an extra £5 billion this year into the defence budget. We said we'll hit 2.5%, 3 years earlier than anyone expected in the year after next. And we said exactly how we'll fund that. We're going to switch a difficult decision, but we'll divert money out of overseas development aid. We'll put it into defence because that's what is needed to reinforce our armed forces, make the country safer. It allows me to make the decisions now, like I'm announcing today, an extra £1 billion in this Parliament for laser weapons that in 2 years' time will be on our ships, the first European nation to have laser weapons in service. It allows me to save £4 billion, doubling the amount of money going into drone development in this Parliament. And that is a way of boosting British jobs, creating small businesses, creating opportunities right across the UK. It's the way that we get the defence dividend from this extra record defence investment that we're making.
Because the argument is that we wasted the peace dividend after the end of the Cold War. You're talking about more money by the end of this Parliament. The ambition that you have, and you haven't confirmed, you'll definitely have it, the ambition is 3% of GDP by the end of the next Parliament. In the meantime, countries like Germany are saying that Russia will attack us in the next 4 years. We're not ready for that, are we?
Well, NATO is doing exactly what's needed, and Britain's playing a leading part of that. We're reinforcing the strength of NATO, the ability to deter any threats in the future, the ability to defend our 32 NATO nations together in the future as well, because in the end, a greater warfighting readiness is about a stronger deterrence, and that we avoid the wars we don't want to fight by being strong enough to win them if we have to.
Yeah, but let me come back on NATO, because their ambition now, we hear from Mark Rutte, the head of NATO, is that countries spend 3.5% of GDP on defence. And we've had Russia fighting in Ukraine, annexing Crimea 11 years ago. So you're not quite spending the money that NATO requires and not acting anywhere near quickly enough.
Well, Mark Rutte, the Secretary General of NATO, of course, strongly welcomed the SDR review yesterday. There are discussions about what NATO nations spend. There are even more important discussions about what NATO nations contribute to NATO, the capabilities that we contribute and other nations to make our collective defence stronger. And the UK is the only NATO nation that fully commits its own nuclear deterrent to the defence and security of other nations. We will be the first NATO nation in Europe to have a fully operational laser weapon in 2 years' time because of the investment we're putting in. And because of the investment today that I'm announcing into doubling the amount of drones over the next Parliament, we'll be at the leading edge of innovation in NATO. It's the way that we contribute to NATO in what we provide.
What are the things that concern military people the most? Aerial defences, and former military chief General Sir Richard Barrons says that cruise missiles hit the likes of Birmingham and London within 90 minutes. What are you doing in terms of that? So we see Israel with their Iron Dome, we see the US talking about the Golden Dome of aerial defences, whereas we're talking minutes in terms of a possible attack, and you're talking armaments and decades in terms of full investment.
Hey there, people.
Of course, we're part of NATO. Our front line is not on the coast of the English Channel, it's on the border